Howdy, guys. This is Jimmy Song from Off Chain. I am here in Hong Kong. It's been an interesting week so far. I spoke at Token 2049. I ran my programming blockchain in Hong Kong. Had 16 people that completed the program. It's a lot of fun. Hong Kong's a very interesting place. Yeah, I gotta say it's not exactly what I expected. Yeah, it's really crowded, hard to get to different places, but also like really good food. Um, really nice places. There's a surprising amount of like just public area that you can like walk around and stuff. So enjoying myself here. I am going to speak at the Hong Kong Devs Meetup, and then I think there's another more general Bitcoin meetup after that. So that'll be really fun. Anyway, I wanted to, well, first of all, shout out to Michigan, go blue. Yeah, in case you don't know, I graduated from there, and I know that they are in the Elite Eight at this point, so I'm gonna cheer from them from afar, I guess. I do hear that the Final Four is in San Antonio, so if Michigan makes it to the Final Four, I'm gonna have to hurry back home to watch them. But anyway, yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about why ICOs and altcoins are so popular, and it's something that I had sort of thought about a little bit, but I think it was crystallized for me having some conversations with some people here over the last week or so. I think the big thing that you don't really get when you're when you've had opportunities to invest in things, if you've like sort of invested in stock and stuff, and if you've you bought bonds or whatever, you've had the opportunity to invest, but you have to realize like most of the world actually doesn't get a chance. They don't get a chance to really invest that often, and if they do, it's they're kind of scared. They think the game's kind of rigged against them, and it's kind of true, right? Like if you are buying stock or something like that, you're going up against like high frequency trading firms and Warren Buffett and all these people that have been doing this for years, and this is their profession, and they've got every conceivable edge that they can get. What's different about sort of ICOs and altcoins that I think is very attractive is that, first of all, there aren't quite as many as like stocks or bonds or something like that, and they're a lot more approachable in a weird way, despite the fact that they're really abstract. Most coins are abstract. It's hard to know the technical details of what it is, but they're approachable in the sense that you can find out information, and there's sort of no rules around it. If you're doing some sort of like investment into any sort of startup or something like that, that's it's a lot harder to find the deals. This is what venture capitalists call deal flow. And what ICOs and altcoins sort of do for a lot of people is they give them something akin to deal flow. And we're sort of in that boom right now, because instead of sort of having to get like a brokerage account and all this other stuff, you can more or less go register for an ICO just by like sending some Ethereum to some address or something. And it's you can trade a lot of stuff on a lot of exchanges very quickly. It's people really like asymmetric bets, and for good reason. It's you don't risk, your downside is limited, your upside is more or less unlimited. So that's what I think attracts a lot of people. That said, it's kind of gotten out of hand, right? Like things like Tron are raising money off of a white paper. Ripple is more or less gained a lot of market cap just because of the low unit price and things like that. It's kind of this weird thing where there is a lot of irrational exuberance in the community, and I don't know when that stops. I don't know when it gets to a point when people are, starting to think about what's it going to be long term, or like sort of the intrinsic value underneath these, or whether or not the technologies that these these altcoins and ICOs claim are actually going to be executed and stuff like that. But at some point, roosters, well, what is it? Chickens will come home to roost. That's the expression. And but we don't know when that's going to be. And this sort of puts a lot of uncertainty into the markets, as we've seen. And that's kind of what we're experiencing right now. You'll have down days, you'll have up days. But it's really important to know what it is that you're investing in, because it makes it so that you can sort of invest long term. It's very difficult to invest in anything long term without having some level of conviction about it. And this is a tweet I wrote a little bit back. But if you don't have conviction in what it is that you're investing in, then you're always going to be tempted to sell whenever there's any volatility. As Nasib Taleb would say, holding is very fragile to volatility if you don't have any knowledge behind it. It's whereas it's anti-fragile to volatility if you have conviction, because the sort of volatility should validate your investment thesis, as long as at least my investment thesis, that it's going to disrupt a lot of things, and when it's a disrupting thing, it tends to be very volatile. So that's kind of how you have to think about it, at least with Bitcoin. I like all these other altcoins and ICOs. I have suspect that most people don't really know very much about what it is that they're investing in, and those, like, even very good developers that have looked into some of this stuff, they're like, what is this? I like, it's so complicated and so convoluted, that it's difficult to even have an investment thesis. Some of the biggest whales I know, they don't invest in any altcoins because they're like, I don't know what that's about, and it's going to take too long to understand any of it. And a sign of whether or not you're actually understanding it is that you spend a lot of time actually studying it. So, and this is something that I tell people when they're like, hey, can you come look at my ICO? I'm like, well, to really do a good job, I'm going to have to spend like a week or two on this, and like think through all of the incentives and game theory scenarios, and adversarial attacks against this thing. What happens if the coin goes up in price? What happens if the coin goes down in price? And figure out, well, who's going to use it? Why are they going to use it? And how are you going to keep them using it? And who's going to make money? And who's going to keep it up and maintain it? And there's so many just questions that it's so difficult to know anything about it, that a lot of people are essentially using shortcuts to figure out whether or not they're going to invest. They either trust somebody that they probably shouldn't, or they're just sort of not planning to hold it long term. If you're not holding it long term and you're sort of a frequent trader or whatever, and you are a trader, that much is fine, because you're sort of trading on technicals and or on not on fundamentals, but on like sort of volatility and movement and sort of momentum and things like that. But if you're trying to invest any other way, the only real choice is going long term, because you're not really going to make that much money, and there's a very good chance you'll lose money unless you understand it, pretty well. And that's the thing that a lot of people are sort of allergic to, is actually understanding what it is that they're investing in. Oftentimes, what they end up doing is they invest in stuff and they don't know what it is, hoping that investment will spur them to learn more about it. But that's just not a very good scenario most of the time. I don't know. Other people have different personalities, and they might be able to just sort of hold something without thinking about it too much. And there are sort of artificial ways to do that, like locking it up in a safe or something. But it's very difficult to really understand an investment. And the word investment comes from vestments. Vestments are things that you wear. You're supposed to sort of make these things a part of yourself. Like you're supposed to know it that well that it almost becomes a part of you. And I don't know how much of the communities around these altcoins and ICOs really are wearing it, right? Like have made that a part of them. There are a lot of sort of shills on Twitter and stuff like that for a lot of these coins. And say what you will about them, but the one thing that you can say is that they have conviction in their product. It might be misplaced conviction, but at least they have conviction and they're sort of following whatever their conviction is. Other people, they're just sort of not sure whether or not they should get into it. And in those cases, I think staying out of that market is the best course of action. And I mean, to be quite frank, that's why I stay out of most ICOs and altcoins. I'm biased towards thinking that they're scams to begin with, just because of the history of sort of the industry that we're in. There were tons of people that scammed using coins and things like that. And the more I study some of these things, the more I'm like, wow, it's a good thing I didn't invest anything. You shouldn't invest in stuff that you're not really that familiar with. And that's more or less the message I wanted to say. All right, let's take a look. All right, good to see you, man. What's up? Jimmy's like a leaking faucet, dripping knowledge. Is that the new kitchen, Jimmy? No, I'm in Hong Kong right now. I'm in my hotel, and it's I think this is Kowloon or something. So I guess I'm not in Hong Kong proper, but I'm gonna cross the bridge and into Hong Kong pretty soon. But yeah, the whole kitchen thing's another whole story. I'll tell you guys about it sometime. He aged like 10 years in a year. Possibly. I don't know. It's been possibly the most awesome year of my life, but it's also been some of the most stressful. And not just because of crypto. It's because I struck up on my own, and I'm doing programming blockchain and things like that. And it's scary. It's scary doing something new. It's scary going into the unknown. But the book I read recently, 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson, he talks a lot about sort of that mix between the unknown and the known. If you stay in too comfortable a place and just stay in your own comfort zone, that's not going to be very good for your growth. And you should try to do something that sort of pushes the boundaries of your comfort. And that's how you grow as a person. And, coming to Hong Kong, I haven't been here before, and I haven't been in Asia in like 24 years or something like that. Coming here, it was a lot of fun, right? Like it's scary, but in a good way. And I try to find opportunities to do stuff like that. The more, I guess, I get older, because I know how stagnant life can be, and I know how easy it is to sort of fall into a rut and like basically not have any growth edges. I want to have growth edges, and I want to do stuff, and that's why I wanted to strike out on my own. I do programming blockchain and my other business and advising and being a VC and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun, and I'm much more motivated than when I was, I think, more of a wage slave. But yeah, it can be kind of scary, and that's, I think, the reason for the stress I had in the last year, which is a long-winded way of saying, if you guys think I look older, it's because I've been doing some living, and I think I can honestly say that I've definitely lived a lot in the last year. All right, let's see. Thanks, Jimmy Young. Yeah, I'll take you out for a Kaibi if you ever come to Chicago. I guess I'm gonna have to go to Chicago. All right. Let's see what other stuff. Hey, Jimmy, did you invest in some ICOs? Not really, no. What altcoins do you like, Jimmy? I'm asked this all the time, and the three that kind of interest me are the three that I have the most technical respect for, and that's Monero, Decred, and Zcash. And they're all fantastic developers, and that's why I look at them. And yeah, you got to go with, you got to know who you are. I'm a developer. I'm a technical guy. That's what I do, and that's my main sort of tool, if you will. And it might be a hammer, just looking for nails or whatever. But as far as I'm concerned, that's the most important part of an altcoin is the technical piece, and those are the ones I like. I mean, do I think they're gonna overtake Bitcoin? No way, no way. But I like watching them, and I'm interested in what they're doing, and I'm constantly sort of monitoring what innovations they have. You know, they all have really interesting things. So you know, that's sort of the direction I go in as far as evaluation. That's what I know. I think more or less that's the only real technical way to evaluate something. Or I don't know, maybe there are other ways you can gauge the community or something like that. But those tend to change quite often. I guess developers do too. But that's how I look at things. All right. How do you see Bitcoin wallets evolve from private keys and BIP? I mean, they've already evolved, right? It used to be single private keys that were randomly generated, but they've more or less gone to deterministic wallets and then hierarchical deterministic wallets. That's all, you know, BIP32 or HD wallets. Is there any evolution out of that, or doing something different? Maybe it would be nice if you know, we could pay each other with like usernames instead of like these nasty ass addresses. But you know, I like, you know, that requires some sort of central party to administer usernames and stuff like that. I mean, I know Namecoin was originally trying to do that, but no one's like really developed on Namecoin in years. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I'd like to see something in that direction. You know, even if it's you know, a little bit centralized, I think the trade-off might be worth it if I don't know, you can utilize something like that. I don't know. I don't know how you can do that in a decentralized way. So you need some sort of centralization to be able to send to people. Yes, Coinbase already kind of does that. So yeah, it's a hard question. I'm sure if there's an entrepreneur watching, if you can figure this problem out, I'm sure people would love it. All right, let's see. All right. What if ICO altcoin continue to pump and dump in long term? How will crypto change or stay the same? Well, the thing about pumps and dumps is that you need somebody to win and somebody to lose. It's a zero sum game. And at a certain point, you run out of money. That's more or less what happens. That's how bubbles pop. So, I mean, at some point, somebody's going to run out of money. We don't know when that is yet because we don't know the deepness of this pool of money coming in. So, it's possible it'll last for a while, and it can normally last a lot longer than you think, at least in the history of economics and stuff like that. But when it crashes brutally and very quickly. So I don't know. It's a good question. Let's see. You meet any altcoin leaders? I think I've met all three from the ones I mentioned. I know Dave Collins from Decred. I know Fluffy Pony. I've met Zuko. So yeah. Could you please comment on that Twitter exchange about Ripple validators? Yeah. So Tiffany Hayden had some issue with what I said in a previous video, saying, you know, Ripple centralized, they can take away your Ripple or whatever. And she said that I was slandering Ripple or that I'm a liar and all this other stuff. So I just I wrote her back and said, hey, sorry I pissed you off, but you know what's going on? Like why are you saying this stuff? You know, like what is it that you want to know? He's like, well, point to the piece of code where you know Ripple can take it away. And more or less, I just wanted to. I don't know her from a hole in the wall, and I don't know any of the Ripple devs or anything like that. But you know, I wanted to be courteous. I was just like, okay, well, All right, I knew the argument I wanted to make, but I just wanted to see like what sort of debater she was. So I put, who controls this thing, and it was Ripple.com, Ripple.txt, and that is what Ripple calls a unique node list, and this is what you're supposed to sort of trust, more or less, because they're the ultimate validators, and you're supposed to look at a supermajority of them or something like that. So, and she said it was Ripple. I was like, all right, fine, that's good. How about the Ripple, the GitHub? Who controls that? And she danced around that like 5 different ways, and basically couldn't come up with like just refused to answer the question, which told me, okay, first of all, she's not really in for a debate. She just wants to discredit me or something like that. And if you watch the whole debate, that's kind of her shtick, is how can I make Jimmy look stupid, is sort of like her thing. And you can see she like sort of quote retweeted everything instead of replying, which would have made it a lot easier for you to sort of follow the thread. But that to me was what she was doing. I don't know. I don't purport to know her motivations, but that's what it felt like to me. As far as my actual argument against it, or thoughts on like defending what I said, Tiffany Hayden and that developer guy from Ripple basically were claiming that it was impossible. And then I was just like, okay, Ripple controls most of the validators, at least in the default setup. You're supposed to use Ripple.com, Ripple.txt as your validators, and they're all controlled by Ripple. Now, if you have that as your validator list, then what can they do? Well, whenever you submit a transaction for validation, they can reject it. That's what a validator does. They validate transactions. They can reject your transaction. You may have gotten 10,000 Ripple. You could try to take that, transfer that 10,000 Ripple for some good or service. If Ripple doesn't, thinks you're like a drug dealer or something, and or the NSA has some secret, FISA order or something like that, and they say, you know what, like never validate any transaction from this guy, they've effectively taken your XRP away from you. Now, there are some questions as to how effective that would be, and there's some questions as to like what mitigations you can do, but they didn't seem at all interested in talking about any of that. They just wanted to discredit me, so they kept arguing in that particular way. But yeah, I think I came up with a pretty good scenario, which is, if you're submitting transactions to a Ripple validators, and that's the default setup. You can add validators, but if you just use their recommended setup according to their FAQ and wiki and their GitHub and their README documentation, it says, go and, if you don't, the recommended setup is go to this URL and download that file, and that's your list of validators. I was like, okay, well, if you do that, then they can just take away your Ripple. That's, they could take it away from you. And how's that different than stealing, right? But that to me was more or less the entire argument, but it took like 40 tweets to get to, and they're very elusive about it. I don't want to like speculate on their motivations or anything, but it was just a very frustrating experience, to some degree. I mean, like you got to give them respect though, right? Like they believe in their coin, and they want to defend it, and in many ways, like, that's why I hesitate to criticize almost anything, because you're kind of commenting on somebody's baby, and if you tell them their baby is ugly, that's kind of rude, or that's taken as rude, even if the baby actually is kind of ugly. So we're in this weird situation on Twitter where, if you criticize almost anything, the defenders will show up in force, and so the incentives are such that you don't want to criticize almost anything, unless you're ready to get into kind of a Twitter fight like I just had. Anyway, are you an active trader? No. Do you think privacy coins can be banned by the government in the future? I mean, they can try. I don't know if they'll succeed. Do you think Bitcoin will ever get away from ASIC mining? I don't think so. I don't see why it would. Let's see. Hey, Jimmy, What do you think it would take for crypto to fail at this point with its momentum? That's a great question. Something much better came along, like 10x better, then that would kill cryptocurrency, or at least the stuff that's out there. I don't see anything like that on the horizon, but disruption almost always comes from a direction that you can't imagine or can't predict. It's innovation for that reason. At Bluecore, thanks for your donation. He asked me pitch an ICO idea in under 10 seconds. Okay, so most ICO ideas are bad 90s .com ideas with a blockchain on it. So I'll say pet food on blockchain. All right. Jimmy, have you ever checked out Kamal Ravikant's book, Love Yourself Like Your Life Depended on It? No, I have not. Maybe I'll go take a look. What are some top fundamentals of a good cryptocurrency? It should not have a pre-mine. It should not have a dev tax. It should not privilege any particular nodes or have any central point of failure. The creator ideally disappears after creating it, and there's a strong dev team maintaining it afterwards. That's what I would call a good cryptocurrency. What's your opinion on XML forking for ASIC resistance? Good question. I don't know. I think this is what happens when you piss enough people off. I mean, Bitmain didn't tell. I think if they like approached it a little more humbly and like let the Monero developers know and like sort of had some fair distribution of their miners or something like that, there was a chance that those ASICs would have continued to exist and like the developers would have been for it. But because of the way sort of Bitmain came out all of a sudden and said, okay, well, we'll sell you these Monero ASIC miners for this kind of ridiculous price, that pissed off the Monero developers, and they said, okay, well, we don't want Bitmain to have any say in our network, so they decided to fork. So, I mean, in a way, this is it's a good argument for why you should strive to be at peace with everyone, because you might need the cooperation, and certainly for Bitmain, they invest. I know how much money it would take to go and develop an ASIC and like get the chips manufactured and then put into miners and all that stuff. Couldn't have been very cheap. So I'm guessing maybe they just broke even. But yeah, I mean, this is a good lesson for all those mining companies. Cooperation is probably going to get you further. Jimmy, what are some of the podcasts you follow outside of crypto? I like to watch a couple of things on YouTube once in a while. There's something called like Primitive Technology that I really like. It's just this guy with his hands, and he'll like go and make huts or something with his bare hands. It's pretty awesome. I love watching that stuff, and it's sort of seeing like how creative he can be with the stuff that's around. Like he makes like he's made like an oven and like this like tile roof and all this stuff and a bed and an oven, and it's kind of incredible what he's done just with his hands. So that to me is something that I like watching. It's not really a podcast, but I like it. Hashgraph I already talked about in a previous video. Please go look up that one with Tone. Plans to travel to Argentina. I'm thinking about it. South America, I would really like to do. I've done Europe, I've done Asia, I've done North America. So South America, Africa, and Australia are really the three that I could hit for sort of like a continental grand slam for a year. I don't think that's going to happen. But anyway, yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to figure out when to go to Sao Paulo. I might visit Argentina like right around then, but we'll see. Appreciate all your hard work. Thank you, Marco SRDZ89. What are your thoughts on smart contracts? Well, Bitcoin has smart contracts. It's called script, and that's kind of what makes it work. Can you do other stuff with it? Can you do stuff without sort of a smart contract language. Yes, it's called scriptless scripts, and Andy Fulstra has a whole bunch of stuff on that, and it's absolutely fascinating the amount that you can do without actual scripts, especially with stuff like music, which is like key and signature aggregation. That's the topic I'm going to talk about tonight. So it's been on my mind, but yeah, it's possible that we can just eliminate the whole smart contract language and still get a lot of capabilities and do a lot of stuff. And that might honestly be the way to go because all of the generalization around smart contracts actually don't get used very much. Bitcoin has a very, fairly rich smart contract language and script. It's just that not that many people use it. The vast majority of people are using pay to pub key hash, the addresses that start with a 1, pay to script hash, addresses that start with a 3, and most of those are just multi-sig or SegWit or something like that, and maybe a little bit of Bec32, which is more or less exactly the same as pay to pub key hash. So, I mean, it's kind of like going overboard with designing something almost, and it turns out that the use cases that everyone imagines would be useful aren't that useful. I mean, same thing with Ethereum. The vast majority of the use there is just ERC20 tokens, right? And those are the template. It's it was possible to do on Bitcoins with color coins way back in like 2013. So I don't know. I would like to see sort of an evolution towards less scripting because it does increase the attack surface quite a bit. All right, your opinion on the Ledger Nano hack by the 15-year-old. I haven't read it or looked into it yet, so sorry. Do you think there should be a financial incentive for running a full node? No, there's already a financial incentive. It's called privacy, and it's called being master of your own node. Yeah, I don't know. All right, thanks for the answer on Ripple. That was funny. Wow, there's a lot more. He looks Asian to me. I definitely am Asian. What do you think will be the next currency aside from crypto and fiat? I don't know. Thoughts on Bitcoin implementing smart contracts? It already has smart contracts. It's called Script. I'm reading the questions from the chat. Any plans for coming to Toronto? Gosh, I would like to be in Toronto. Especially during the summer. I hear it's really fun. Can't promise anything, but I do want to go to Canada at least at some point. I know in Montreal they want to have like some sort of Bitcoin conference or something. We'll think of. I'll think about it. It depends on what's on there. Thank you. Let's see. How many developers are working on Bitcoin? I'd say like 40 to 50. That are sort of regularly, semi-regularly contributing. Thoughts on Cody Wilson? Not really. What's the next buzzword in crypto? I hear it's AI. Like, how blockchain was the big buzzword. I hear the next big buzzword is AI. And really, it's just machine learning, not really actual artificial intelligence. It's just sort of lots of data that allow you to do training sets or something like that. I mean, like when you hear blockchain, you should automatically think, okay, that's just a database. And when you hear AI, you should just think, okay, it's like machine learning algorithms. Yeah, that's it. What's the next big upgrade for Bitcoin? I'd say Lightning's going to be the main thing that's going to keep everyone occupied for a while. But I mean, SegWit version 1 will come in the next year or two, I imagine. Ethereum will eventually fix their code and be successful. Aren't they already successful? They've made lots of money, and there's tons of ICOs executing on their platform. I think by all reasonable measures, they're already successful. Are they going to last? That's another question entirely. Why do you think the current crypto climate bloodbath, and how is it related to real value creation? I think it's random noise. Just short term things just go up and down. That's what happens. I think if we saw an actual bloodbath, it would have gone like everything would have dropped 95%. That would have been a real bloodbath. And that would have been triggered by something. I know. Do you believe Craig Wright is Satoshi? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Let's see. Proof of weekends. I don't know what that is. Is there any way I can work in the blockchain crypto space without knowing how to code? Yeah, of course. I mean, there's lots of other jobs. You can be the marketing director for some company. You could be the HR person. You could be salespeople. Customer support. Finance. I mean, there's lots of jobs that don't require you to code. Now, my opinion is that it helps if you know how to code with almost anything, but it's not a requirement per se. You just have to work a little harder. I'm a mechanical engineer and starting to learn Java. Is that a good language to learn to eventually get into blockchain programming? Why are you learning Java? Is that from school or something? That language was popular maybe 20 years ago. I would not recommend it. Try something like Golang. You can go learn like BTCD or something like that. And it's a pretty performant language, and it's relatively clean to program and stuff like that. I would say go with Go. What's your intent behind offering those? Bitcoin development courses. My intent is to make money, help the ecosystem, help other people, and help businesses. I want to help everybody, and this is the easiest way for me to do that. How can I work in the blockchain space? I already answered that. Thoughts on Tether? It's so confusing to me. I still don't get it. Let's see. Why is there only 40 to 50 people working on Bitcoin? I was talking about Bitcoin Core, but I mean, there's probably a lot of other people working on other stuff. Are you attending some event in Sao Paulo? No, I was just going to do a seminar there. Yeah. Let's see. Do you like Icon? No. Do I like Korean barbecue? Absolutely. Do you believe that Bitcoin is still in a bubble? No. Do you get paid in Bitcoin or USD most often? Bitcoin, at least for my seminars. I don't know what's going on with BCAP. Why don't you still do videos on WCN? I just haven't had the time. Yeah, I haven't had the time, man. I'm in Hong Kong right now. I'm not like Tone, where he seems to be able to do like 3 videos a day. It doesn't matter where he is. I have a hard time even getting to 1 video a day. So yeah. Can you elaborate on the Golang? Yeah, Golang. There's a Go Playground. Go Google that, or Golang Playground. You can go learn the language in, I don't know, like 20 days or something like that. They give you like little exercises. It's very sequential and stuff. It's a beautiful language, very performant language, very well designed in my opinion. And you can go do a lot of stuff with it. And if you want to really learn it, go do like 40 problems on like Project Euler or something like that. That's what I would say. But yeah, Go's a great language, and I wouldn't hesitate to help people to go learn it. What's the next step for crypto to be adopted? I don't know. Python or C++, both also good languages. What price do you see Bitcoin ultimately heading to? Go ask Tone. What do you think will be the first global use case of Bitcoin, store of value? Can you explain in simple terms what's the distinction between BTC and Bcash? Technical would help. Bitcoin Cash basically has much larger pages on the ledger. And it's more or less developed by one person. Bitcoin has smaller pages on the ledger, but each entry means a lot more due to Lightning. How many different scripting languages does Bitcoin support? Just script. It's a forth-like language, and it's stack-based, and it's not Turing complete, but that's about it. What do you think about using AI to create programming with natural language? Don't think that's going to work. Have you ever been to Brazil? No, I have not, which is why I want to go to Sao Paulo. So that would be fun. I already talked about hash graph. So yeah, anyway, that lasted a lot longer than I thought it would. How many of you all are up on like Friday night? It's like Saturday, like afternoon here. So it's like, I don't know, it's like, I guess it'd be like 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. on the West Coast. I'm guessing a lot of those. Yeah, Go versus Python. They're both good languages for beginners or whatever, for experts too. But yeah, both are good. All right. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I just wanted to make a short video. It turned out to be a lot longer. I guess you guys want to hang with me or something. So thank you. And this song is done.